of high jumping would have been calf raises. Okay? Nice and simple. What weight you could have put on the bar depended then on how strong your body was, how strong your back was, everything, no stability anymore. To make things a bit more difficult for yourself. As I said, the limiting factor of this movement is going to be what weight you can put on the bar and what weight you can put on your back. With this, the limiting factor is going to be what stability you're going to be able to do. After any weightlifting movement, I would immediately do a plyometric. Because when you're doing weightlifting movement, you're tearing down the muscle and you're looking to build strength in the muscle, okay? But you're tearing down the fibers. When you do a plyometric, you're looking at recruiting fast twitch fibers. That's the quick fibers that relate to this, okay? So when you're hitting the ground and jumping straight up, that's your fast twitch fibers. That's your spring ability, okay? So when you're doing weights, you're building the strength, but when you're doing plyometrics, you're building the speed, okay? Now, I was always a great believer in when doing weights, do something explosive afterwards. Range, that was never a problem, okay? But they never did working sets with full range. It was always just to warm up the hips, warm up the quads, warm up your back and everything like that. A very popular one for high jumpers, and probably use a little bit higher watts on this, was box squats. Again, in a caged environment. Bar on your back, chest out, back straight. Sit back, down. Deactivate everything. Boom, react. Okay? Again, not ridiculously explosive. It's not going to be as explosive as a plyometric. So again, knees out, chest out, back straight, down, straight drive. What this is teaching you is to drive through your hips. Again, only double leg with this one. And then, after my working sets, immediately onto box jumps. Now, hamstrings. One of my strongest points was my hamstring strength. But what I used to do was heavy rack pulls. Now, rack pulls, you'd set the bar up to probably about 2-3 inches above your knee. Chest out, back straight, right forward. Heavy deadlift. Now, what happens with this movement, this is a big movement that you're going to lift most times away with. And what happens here is it shocks the central nervous system. Okay, when you lift something very, very heavy, it works your entire body. Okay, every bit of you is sore after doing these exercises. Chest out, back straight, drive forward. Don't go up on your tippy toes. Keep nice and planted. Straight back down. Okay. Now, so to make it easier on your back and more taxing for your legs, and again more stability, you do a single leg version of, which is exactly the same deal. Chest out, back straight, leg in the air. Drive forward, which is exactly the same as a clean minus a high pull and getting underneath. So you're getting the first phase of your clean more or less, okay? But you're able to put way more weight. Now, again, with any of these exercises, I did my 10 and 6-4-2, or I did my 5 sets of 5, depending on my phase. I did my single leg version straight afterwards, because you're going to lighten the weight for it anyway. Drive forward, and then, not being fatigued, the way to do a plyometric of some sort. What I used to do was single leg box jumps. Being probably on a 20-inch box or anything, standing straight up and down very, very quickly. When it came to core-wise, I used to do an awful lot of stability, kneeling on the wall, holding, holding stability like so, doing push-ups, hold on the ball, single leg, raises, squeeze. One of my personal favourite was holding a plank on the ball, legs out straight, left leg in the air. And get somebody to kick the ball randomly, holding your stability. Eventually, when I got to the point of where I think, right, I kind of got my maps of what I'm able to do with these particular exercises, then we modified slightly. You probably see an awful lot of high step-ups. Quite low, down on your back, quite forward, and up. And there's a lot of ability to stand, forward, control, back down, and repeat. Very fast movement on this one, then it's going to be. So immediately after doing those exercises, I will do bounds, standing, say 15-20 meters. Standing, single leg rounds. The reason people with these bands instead of weights for some exercises is, for instance, you have the band strap to a bar or whatever. When you're lifting a weight, momentum kicks in quite early. Okay, so if you're doing a calf raise, you're probably working to a point. You're working to about here, and then just sheer momentum and velocity of you lifting the bar, it kind of finishes itself almost because that's the way it's moving. When you're using bands, bands stop that momentum. Okay? So when you have heavy bands set onto something, your drive phase is continuously through the muscle movement. So at the very top it's at its heaviest, and at the very bottom it's at its lowest. Provided you're doing the techniques and the forms correctly, and they're biomechanically right, you're doing them in the right ranges, and it's towards your goal, which is 500, you can start out at any age.
Is there any risk of building too much muscle at a young age?
You see, you're not building, these particular exercises aren't bulk builders in the first place. The big bulk builders when it comes to weightlifting is kind of like what bodybuilders will do. We got high reps to a certain degree, but also compound movements and stuff like that. These smaller ranges of movements are generally building your tendons and your ligaments. And you're not in a bulking way. You're not going to gain size, you're not going to gain massive size from any of it. You're mainly building strength through muscle builders.
Could I ask another question? You mentioned earlier about when you're doing, say, a heavy weight session, you like to do your speed session the day after. Can you tell me just why, or what's your thinking on that? Or?
My mind towards that was, after I did a weight session, after I did my plyometrics and everything, I was priming the muscles, recruiting fast twitch fibers and everything like that. And then the next day when I went out to the track, I wanted to simulate what I needed for my high jump. So my running, my strides, my sprints and everything like that. It kind of triggered in my brain, I'm doing this, not to get good at this, but to get good at that. And I found that doing a sprint session, doing a track session after my weights kind of just mentally pour that in that I'm lifting these weights for the purpose of being better as a high jumper. And being faster, being stronger, being more explosive. And I found that doing a sprint session, doing my track sessions, like the morning after a heavyweight session, I found that benefited me psychologically as well as physically.
From like a weekly training point of view, and you have all these exercises here, are you getting these done? I know there's a lot there, but are they overlapping ever? Are you getting these sessions done twice or 3 times a week, you know, with
Yeah, so what I used to do, I'm a great believer in variety. You're doing the same exercise, but you're doing it in a slightly different way. The way I used to do it, I used to come back to do the same exercise probably once every 3 to 4 weeks. I would do, before I just take calf raises for instance, I would do it with very heavy weights 1 week. Then the next I would do it with bands. I would do a single leg version of it. I would do held with dumbbells. Held in a certain different way, with a different bar, with a different everything, just to hit the body in slightly different ways. So if I was doing a max box squat, I could do it with heavy bands, or I could do it with heavy weight, or I could do it with the chains, or I could do it with slightly different rep ranges. But I'd probably every 3 to 4 weeks I would come back to the same exercise. And can you hold for a second, please? Slowly control it all the way back down. 2, 3. So I am a big fan of doing things in these cages that if she goes out of control with a big weight, you can just drop it down and it's fine. When you're outside of it and you're losing control, there's always a little bit of risk of injury, so this takes the risk of injury out of it. So you're able to concentrate more on a particular movement. Now the range that she is doing is great, and as the weight gets heavier, you want to simulate that range of motion or that range of movement as well, but obviously when it gets so much heavier, you're not going to be able to drive through it as much, but you want to get as close as possible. Hold for a sec. Control on the way back down. Perfect. Good job. You can imagine the more weight you can control doing doing this, the stronger it's going to be to be able to apply on the ground where you're holding it. Both legs, regardless of what leg you take off when you're high jumping. I had more stability in my right leg because maybe the right leg take off, so it's
Here.
Barry, would this be more strength or power? Was max in this and keep the leg room?
I would have been. Might change the damage of the rest of the game down. I thought really up is important. If you want to try and move the weight quick, you don't do anything slow. But try to do it quick all the time. So
yeah, speed has to be controlled. There's no point not controlling the movement. See, he has control over that bar and where it's going.
Getting more and more specific. In fact, we're getting proper action in it. Getting proper specific. We're going to find out this one is more specific.